Listen at 610 AM, 102 FM.
I listen, therefore I know.
Online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
I listen on the app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. The Utah Broadcasters Association and News Talk KVNU, along with stations across the state, will again air Direct Link live on the air with Governor Spencer Cox. Direct Link is a new call-in radio program that premiered in April. Radio stations throughout the state will carry the program. Tonight's show originates from the KVNU studio from 6 to 7 p.m. It can be heard in northern Utah on 610 a.m. and 102 FM, streamed live on the KVNU mobile app and on kvnutalk.com. Utahns throughout the state will be able to call 855-399-6800. which is a central toll-free phone number, and talk directly with Governor Cox. They can ask him about any topic they wish. Governor Cox made it clear during his campaign and since being inaugurated earlier this year that he will have a decidedly focused approach to rural Utah. In cooperation with his office, rural broadcasters from throughout the state have been working together to establish this new platform that allows the governor to interact with Utahns all over the state and not just the Wasatch Front. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, cooler, overnight low in the lower 50s. Southeast winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Sunny to partly cloudy and around 90 on Wednesday, with southwest winds 10 to 20 during the day tomorrow. This morning's low has been 61, and our high this afternoon has been 82. In fact, it's 82 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather is brought to you by the Duct Hunter. If your clothes dryer isn't drying, it could be the dryer vent. Don't buy new. Call the Duct Hunter. They'll come clean it out for you. 770-4813.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. You have an opportunity to get out and learn some history of northern Utah and southeast Idaho, specifically the Bear Lake Valley area that many people do not know. Several events are planned this summer and fall to spotlight that history through a nonprofit organization called Friends United for Bear Lake. Current organization president and co-founder Lori Rich was a guest on KVNU's For the People program on Monday and talked about how she got interested in the history of this area.
We saw that our children leave this valley, but they always want to come back, and what brings them back is their roots.
Sure.
And we wanted to preserve that, and we wanted to preserve these structures because they were I've seen them slowly, people buying them, and they'll change them, and then they won't be on the register anymore because of the changes, or they've demolished them.
Their first event is coming up this Saturday at the Thomas Nye Home in Paris, 52 East, 1st South. It's a Bear Lake Heritage photo show.
We wanted to preserve the history, and that was what we wanted to do, is show the history and the beautiful things that are in the valley and the talent. There is so much talent in this valley that needs to be shown off, not just photographers, but artists and musicians and authors.
Other events on the schedule include a Hollyhock Historic Home and Garden Tour in August and a Folklore and Apple Cider Social in September. You can visit their website for more information, friendsunitedforbearlake.org. And Governor Cox issued another executive order today further restricting water use at state facilities. He also announced a prohibition on fireworks for all state and unincorporated lands. The governor said all indicators show this could be the worst drought year on record. The Utah state government is leading the way by cutting back on water use at all state facilities, but everyone from private businesses to local governments to individuals need to conserve water now more than ever. Cox announced Executive Order 2021-10, which requires lawn watering at some state facilities to be reduced to 2 days per week. A previous order allowed 3 days per week. He also announced that the state forester and the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands issued an order banning fireworks on all state and unincorporated private lands. This order took effect immediately. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Breaking news, stimulating talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Projects outside go much better after a stop by Stevens Forest Products. Pick up bark, mulch, or compost by the bag for $1 or $2 less at Stevens, or buy it in bulk and save even more. Stevens is also your best source for flagstone, perfect for patios and walkways. Choose from 7 color choices. Pick up a few pieces or take home a pallet. Delivery options are available. Stevens is also home to over 5,000 in-stock railroad ties with prices beginning at $13.99. Stevens Forest Products, between Smithfield and Logan at 3277 North Main.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. Happy spring. I love this beautiful weather, but if you struggle with CPAP, you may not be getting the sleep you need to go outside and enjoy it. Fortunately, now there's Inspire, a sleep apnea treatment that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Learn more at InspireSleep.com. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
I'm Dr. Red in Cache Valley. Some of my patients here have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccines were developed quickly and safely because they cut red tape, not corners. The vaccines are extremely effective and will protect you and your loved ones. More than 1 million Utahns have been vaccinated, and I encourage you to get the vaccine too. Talk to your doctor if you have any questions.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown.
This is Mark Anderson with Anderson Seed and Garden. I would like to invite you to the new Center Street Market, which happens every Wednesday on Center Street in downtown Logan. There will be dozens of vendor booths set up on the sidewalk full of all kinds of fun items to buy or taste. While you're here, stop into Anderson Seed and Garden to see what new items we have in stock. That's the Center Street Market every Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Center Street in Logan.
Downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel. Last night, all I think about is you. Don't stop, baby, you come on too.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, Hour 2 of today's show, Tuesday, June 8th. And just a reminder for listeners, tonight we are the host of a rotating, and by rotating I mean it moves around the state, rural town hall with Governor Spencer J. Cox. This is something new in Utah, and no disrespect intended to previous governors, but oftentimes here in Utah, the governor's statewide outreach has been focused both via the venues hosting the event, or the outlets hosting the event, but also the content, the questions, where the callers were coming from in a Salt Lake-centered style. That continues with the governor's monthly, or every other month, I believe, Speak to the Governor event. Governor Cox making good on a campaign promise and a topic that came up again and again during the gubernatorial primaries last year of raising the profile and increasing the amount of spotlight from the state's perspective on rural Utah. And this is one of the ways that he's chosen to do that. In addition to that Salt Lake City and Utah County-centered Speak to the Governor event, the governor has launched this Direct Link event. This will happen on a regular basis throughout the state. This is the second of these events, and we're honored to be the hosts of the event this month. It will take place right here in our studio, with the governor joining us via stream. And for all of you out there listening on our broadcast airwaves, you will be able to call in There will be a different call-in number than the studio line we usually use, and we'll throw that out here throughout the hour and entire show. So call in your questions. For the sake of time, we will ask you to state your question and then hang up and listen to the governor's answer on the airwaves. But we're going to churn through as many questions as possible. We've had quite a few sent in from listeners in advance, and I've prepared some of my own should I need to jump in with those questions. But my hope is that all of you out there listening will do the work for us here, because your questions are going to be very interesting to hear. So please join us next hour at 6 o'clock. I'm going to have just a brief period of time to transition from host of KVNU's For the People, wrapping up at 6 o'clock, and I'll have about 30 seconds to switch hats and become host of the statewide Direct Link event that will broadcast throughout the state this evening, 6 to 7 p.m. But this is Cache Valley's chance to put their thumb on the scales as far as the topics and questions. So please, Cache Valley, take advantage of that. Put your thumb on those scales, and let's get those questions coming in during next hour's live Speak to the Governor style event called Direct Link. And again, this is happening throughout rural areas of the state on a regular basis. This is all being done in partnership with we here at KVNU, other radio stations from the Uinta Basin and Southern Utah, Utah Broadcasters Association helping to organize and promote this. And it's really cool to see this happening. So I really hope everybody takes advantage. That's 6 to 7 p.m. tonight right here on KVNU after For the People wraps. So speaking of Governor Cox, he did host his monthly news conference a couple of weeks ago. And there was a part of his discussion that kind of flew under the radar that's worth paying a bit of attention to. We will get an update this week from the Coronavirus Task Force. 2 weeks ago, the governor said they were winding this down a bit. The Unified Command would disband, and the Utah Department of Health would take over as they were in the earliest days before Governor Herbert set up the Unified Command to oversee the task force and orchestrate things. That will be winding down in the next month, or by the end of the month, the governor said 2 weeks ago at the last task force briefing, and they would forego weekly briefings and instead hit it every other week. So tomorrow or Thursday on the show, we'll have some highlights of that briefing. If you're not able to tune in, these usually happen around noon, lunchtime each time they do happen. So we'll have that briefing on Thursday. We'll get an update on the pandemic at large, vaccination rates, and more. But to kind of wet your whistle for something we will discuss, I'm sure, via questions from callers next hour, or I'm curious if everyone maybe has burned out on this topic, we won't discuss next hour. Either way, it's worth priming the pump a little bit for our conversation with Governor Cox by highlighting some of his comments during his monthly governor's news conference, which is different than the Coronavirus Task Force briefing, in which Governor Cox presented a retrospective of sorts. Remember, as lieutenant governor, he served throughout the year on Governor Herbert's task force for the pandemic and got a firsthand experience of all of this throughout. During the monthly news conference a couple of weeks ago, Governor Cox was asked by a member of the media for his take on how things have gone, looking back a year from now, et cetera. Things that maybe would have been different, things that still need to be done, concerns the governor still has about Utah's low vaccination rate compared to other even Western states. And here's what Governor Cox had to say.
Just by way of note, the last time we were this low in our 7-day rolling average was June 5th of last year. So it's almost been a full year since we had a rolling average. We were at 324 on June 5th of last year. We just want to briefly, we continue to see some misinformation coming out around vaccines. We've been talking to doctors, especially fetal medicine specialists, and they've made it clear and asked us to make it clear that vaccines do not affect fertility in any way. Women who are or who may become pregnant can feel safe, but you don't have to take my word for it. I would encourage you, as always, to talk to your doctor. So just just as to note how far we've come in slowing the spread of the virus. It took us 8 months to reach our first 100,000 cases of the of COVID on October 21st. It only took 1.5 months to hit the next 100,000 cases. We did that on December 1st, and it took 1 month to hit the next 100,000 cases that we hit on January 7th. And now it took us 4 months to reach the 400,000 case mark. We did that on May 7th. So we're absolutely trending in the right direction. We're excited for what's happening, excited to get things back to normal as quickly as possible. And with that, I'm happy to answer some questions.
And he did. The first of those questions was along exactly those lines. The governor was asked by a member of the media, what can the state do about this misinformation about vaccines, the attitudes that maybe have developed around getting vaccinated in general in certain parts of the state, especially Utah County. The governor said the best thing he believes the state can do is education, and he said they will be doing some of that. You're going to see ad campaigns, you're going to see literature, you're going to see a big push through the Utah Department of Health for doctors to become advocates themselves for vaccination, which most doctors already are, but for doctors to become vocal about that and also point people more often to information to dispel some of these myths and toxic ideas that are out there about the vaccines. Speaking of vaccines, totally shifting away from the governor here, an interesting story I ran across this week. So what we know about these vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, all of these others, they are completely manufactured. They not unlike traditional vaccines that contain some element of the original virus or whatever that they're attempting to build a defense in your body against. And we know how to do that. That's not new science itself, specific to COVID-19 or these vaccines. We've known how to do that forever. You don't hear a lot about polio anymore, right? There's a reason for that. We figured out how to vaccinate against these things. And so the technology, if you will, behind vaccination in general is old, decades, more than half a century old, actually. And so what's new about these vaccines is that they're the first vaccines that are created from scratch. Instead of using some modified version of a dead virus like the flu vaccine uses each year, they actually create these spike proteins that they know are key to how the coronavirus spreads within a human body. And they use those, manipulate those in a way in the lab to create basically a roadmap, a blueprint for your body to copy instructions on how to fight this virus, should it ever enter your system. So it's basically replicating a natural process, but it's the first time we've done that through completely from scratch, man-made content, if you will, in the liquid in that shot. It's very cool. One company, though, interestingly enough, has decided to take a different approach and go old school in a way. And what was interesting about this story, and I've linked to it on our Facebook page for those curious, this company realizes they're not trying to compete with Moderna or Pfizer. What they're trying to do is more round out our knowledge and experience with this virus and other coronaviruses. And so what they've been doing is a trial of a vaccine that is actually old school vaccination technology, in which they actually do take a piece of the coronavirus itself, the spike proteins, but rather than test them in human bodies, what they've been doing is producing them and testing on plants. And it's really amazing how they're doing this. And interestingly enough, the plant that is apparently perfect for this is the tobacco plant. So this company has been using tobacco plants to test out this vaccine that works exactly like the others do, other than it is produced by using, as we traditionally have with vaccines, old, dead coronavirus cells to get the spike proteins in there. But again, using plants to do it, they found that with the tobacco plant, they can get it to generate the necessary cells to build the spike protein cells. Doesn't damage the plant, then they can be harvested in some way from the plant and then used to produce this vaccine. And that vaccine is currently undergoing the rapid trials that the other vaccines have as well. So there will be this will be the fifth vaccine that would eventually be available. And it also stands to contrast these two different ways of vaccine production. Which one's quicker, which one's cheaper, which are more effective or not. And so we're still learning a lot about this. But again, just an interesting story of using tobacco plants to produce vaccines, something that also hasn't been done before, but this is using old school vaccination technology. It's a very cool story. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. And again, stay tuned for more from Governor Cox as he joins us at 6 o'clock tonight, live here on KVNU, 6 to 7 p.m. Phone lines will be open, though we'll have a different 800 number for you to call, and that will start at 6 p.m. tonight. The statewide, rural Utah-focused direct link to the governor with Governor Spencer J. Cox, and honored to be hosting that right here at KVNU this go-round. This will be an event that happens multiple times a year throughout rural areas of the state. And tonight, though, we are honored to be the hosts of this event, and I'll be moderating myself. But I'm hoping the questions will be coming from you out there. So stay tuned. After For the People wraps tonight, I'll make a quick costume change. I'm just kidding. There's no costumes here. And then take over, instead of host of For the People, I'll be this month's host of Direct Link to the Governor with Governor Spencer J. Cox, again, starting right at 6 o'clock tonight as For the People wraps here on KVNU Logan. We'll be back right after this.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Have you been suffering and you can't find any answers?
I actually suffer from depression and anxiety. I also have had severe IBS problems. I actually had gone into a different doctor of mine because I thought maybe I was starting to go through menopause and had problems sleeping, and I wasn't resting well, and just everything felt wrong.
Red River Health and Wellness can help.
I am now back at work. It's easy. I get through things effortlessly at work, and it's been a life-changing for me. I'm sleeping better at night. I have full energy all day. I don't have those slumps where I need a nap. It's been amazing. It's been a good journey for me.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER to schedule an in-depth consultation absolutely free. All appointments can be done remotely by FaceTime, Skype, or phone.
You've talked about it for years.
Someday, I want to take down those trees, build a gazebo, and plant a garden.
For you, that someday is today.
Whole Tree Care is who Cache Valley trusts to prune, shape, and remove trees. Nobody has more experience. Fruit trees, dead trees, overgrown trees. Call Whole Tree Care. 760-6587. Ask about a radio discount. Whole Tree Care. 760-6587. Online at wholetreecare.com.
Hi, this is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. At White Pine, we value compassion, integrity, and service. We are committed to serving you and treating your family as our family. We will be here when you need us most, to listen, to help, and to provide exactly what your circumstances require. At White Pine, we promise to dedicate our time and attention to you and your family. We invite you to come by and meet us. We're confident you'll feel a difference.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hot out there. We've been talking about that a bit already on the show. Again, as I mentioned in hour one, last night it seemed to get a good 10 degrees warmer right after the sun went down. It is dry. It is hot. It feels like July, and it's still the 1st of June. And from everything we're hearing and seeing, weather-wise, water-wise, expect a lot of the same this summer. I'm sure we'll get our stretch of summer thunderstorms, but precipitation expected to be very low. Has a lot to do with air currents and changes in wind patterns. This can happen at any time. We've been in droughts before here in Utah, but getting the word out has been a top priority for state water leaders and even city leaders to get people to understand this one is serious. In fact, Governor Cox at a press conference today said this is the worst. We'll have a chance to ask him more about this in our special 6 to 7 o'clock direct link live on air with Governor Cox here on KVNU this evening. Phone lines will be open. And a different 800 number for you to call during this event. It is a statewide event focusing on rural Utah throughout the state, basically all around the edges of the state and some in the middle. This is an opportunity for you to get your questions in. We don't care if they all come from Cache Valley tonight, so feel free. That number, by the way, the 800 number, toll-free for tonight's direct link with Governor Cox starting at 6 o'clock. I'll be there moderating the event, but we'll be taking your calls, and the number to call for that is 855-399-6800. 855-399-6800, and I'll throw that a few more times this hour and, of course, many times while we're live with the governor next hour. Consider this a third hour of For the People if you want to, but I will be shifting gears from host of For the People to moderator of Direct Link with Governor Cox tonight at 6 o'clock here on our airwaves. So stay tuned when the show ends tonight. Your night of fun is not over. The drought. Governor Cox at a press conference today said this is the worst drought in our state's history since 1956. He said some higher elevations not normally accustomed to water restrictions or wildfire danger even are going to be seeing that summer. And he said that this is one for people to start taking seriously now. In fact, a recent report from Fox 13 News kind of detailed how some cities, not happening here in Cache Valley yet that I've heard of, but how some cities are actually approaching this with water restrictions and even threats of some pretty hefty fines, and it's only early June.
More communities are implementing restrictions, starting with outdoor lawn watering.
It's kind of like a brownout for that area, if this were power.
In Syracuse, they've put residents on a watering schedule.
We're asking for no watering on Sunday, and the reason being is there's nothing special about Sunday. We simply need to refill our reservoirs with the low supply of water.
Syracuse and other cities are threatening fines for repeat violators. The Weber Basin Water Conservancy District, which covers a large part of northern Utah's water supply, will hang these tags on violators' doors. They have a 3 strikes you're out rule, 2 warnings.
Really reduce their water use. If not, we are prepared to turn their secondary water service off for the year.
And Syracuse City says for the health and safety of everyone, do not hook up culinary water to try to water your lawn.
You will put the entire city at risk. If that happens, the entire system, secondary system, will be shut off for the whole city.
Water districts have also made cuts to agriculture, a big water user.
All of us need to do our part to reduce our water use and to get through this drought.
Now, we've got links on best practices for how you can conserve water. Check it out.
These links are available at utah.gov and also the Utah Division of Water Quality. This is serious. It's already feeling pretty hot and dry out there for June, as I mentioned here in Cache Valley, but some other areas of the state already in trouble. Outdoor watering, the governor said today at the press conference, is 60% of residential water use, and he's even asking HOAs to allow lawns to go brown this summer, something that can normally get you in trouble with an HOA. The governor said at the press conference today that legislative leaders, he and legislative leaders and water managers have been meeting on a regular basis. There will be an increase on secondary water metering. This is a brand new thing here in the state. But he promises that as these long-term projects shift around, to expect more and hear more about things like xeriscaping, about encouraging cities to do away with grass park strips and replace them instead with something much more water-friendly. And again, in the announcement today, in the press conference today, just to make things clear, municipal drinking water is okay. This new ban on the governor announced today on all state lands in state facilities is on lawn watering type water usage in general. Again, the governor today saying officially statewide all state facilities, and they're encouraging county and cities to follow the same on this, will be watering only twice a week. And he knows in some areas that's going to be tough to keep things green, but it's what we're going to have to do. Big question on all this, of course, as far as fireworks goes as well. Is there a ban? Will there be a ban on fireworks? There's been talk of maybe city-only fireworks shows being allowed here in Utah this summer. There's been a lot of push on the wildfire risk even this early in the summer. We're not used to that, but it's here. By the way, clean out those rain gutters. Make sure you don't have flammable stuff stuck in the nooks and crannies of your roof. Some advice there from wildfire managers here in northern Utah. A ban on new ban issued for all state lands on fireworks today. That's as far as this goes. That goes for all unincorporated private lands as well. But no decision on fireworks bans in cities or counties or anywhere in the state as of yet. Although Governor Cox said today, stay tuned on that one, kind of hinting that he believes it's probably going to be possible. So brown lawns are in this summer, and Governor Cox making an example there with saying to states, to state facilities, and encouraging cities and counties to follow suit. Let's go ahead and let things go a little brown this summer when it comes to those park strips and those county building lawns and things like that. And all of us, he asked, should begin thinking about these extremely dry conditions and how we can do our part to use less water. As was mentioned there, that does go for agriculture. No statement from the governor on how they plan to go about this. But it's tough to restrict agriculture water use when that's someone's livelihood, not just someone's, beautiful lawn. But the governor said that's something we're going to have to talk about, that there's going to have to be cuts to water usage in agriculture this year as well, or fines if there isn't compliance. So, again, the governor said stay tuned. This was a brief press conference today, but again, the governor saying that this drought is stacking up to be the worst Utah has seen since 1956. We'll be back after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:36. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Authorities in Utah say 3 people died in a fiery multi-vehicle car crash on a highway near the Heber Valley Airport. Fox 13 reported that investigators with the Utah Highway Patrol said they believe a Jeep traveling on the highway slowed down and then was rear-ended by a truck, causing the Jeep to catch fire, travel into oncoming traffic, and crash into an oncoming vehicle. The other vehicle became engulfed in flames as well. Authorities say 3 people died, but they were not identified. Police said U.S. Route 189 was closed for several hours as a result of the collision. 18-year-old Angie Dodge was raped and killed in her Idaho home a quarter-century ago, and an innocent man wrongly served 20 years in prison for the crime. Today, the man authorities say is the real killer was sentenced to life in prison. 55-year-old Brian Dripp Sr. must serve at least 20 years in prison before he will be eligible for parole. Judge Joel Tingy said it's impossible to quantify how much damage has been caused by Dripp's actions. Christopher Tapp was wrongfully convicted of the crime and spent 20 years in prison before new DNA evidence led to Dripp's arrest and Tapp's exoneration. President Biden's nominee to oversee vast expanses of public land in the U.S. West is being criticized by Republicans because of her involvement in partisan politics as a longtime Democratic aide and environmentalist. Tracy Stone Manning has been nominated to serve as director of the U.S. Bureau of Land Management. During a hearing today, Republicans question whether the former chief of staff to former Montana Governor Steve Bullock could work across party lines. Stone Manning said she would honor the outcome of the 2020 election after backing Bullock in his failed bid to unseat Republican Senator Steve Daines. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. They recently acquired an entire showroom of furniture from the Las Vegas Furniture Market. Best Furniture, an American-made brand. Lots of sofas, sectionals, and all kinds of chairs. Always a better buy at U&I. U&I Furniture, 28 West 1st North, downtown Logan. Mostly clear, cooler tonight, low in the low 50s. Southeast winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Then sunny to partly cloudy tomorrow. Again windy out of the southwest, 10 to 20, high around 90. Right now it's 81. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Did you just build a home or remodel your current home? Well, if so, John at the Duct Hunter says you should have your heating ducts cleaned as soon as possible and change out to a high-quality furnace filter. The dust from construction, sawdust, drywall, and more is sitting in your ductwork. Your furnace filter is probably clogged. You'd be surprised what John has found in air ducts, toys, construction debris, and rodents. Let the Duct Hunter clean the ducts today. Call for a free consultation. The Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Prices start at only $65.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
This is the best in talk radio. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.
Every day I get calls from people in difficult situations. Maybe you've been furloughed. Maybe this crisis has put a strain on your relationships. Or maybe you're just scared. You don't know where to start. Well, I'm here to tell you guys that there is hope. We'll walk with you and show you how to take control of your life and your money right here on the Dave Ramsey Show. Listen weeknights at 6 on News Talk KVNU.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. Inside D.C. politics, how one Democratic senator toes the line in a deep red state. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to Mexico to discuss the migrant crisis at the southern border. Plus, Amazon is out with a new service that shares your internet connection with neighbors. What's that mean for privacy? And 4 ways to beat inflation. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Big announcement this week from 2 congressional representatives. Utah's 1st Congressional District's new Congressman Blake Moore and now a long-time Republican Congressman from Idaho, Mike Simpson. And by long time, he's been there a couple of cycles. They jointly introduced something this week that is going to be really interesting to watch play out. The proposed legislation called the Bear River Heritage Area Study Act it really wouldn't do a lot, but what it does do is pretty important. It would require the U.S. Department of the Interior to study the feasibility of establishing a national heritage area that would cover the entire historic Bear River region. Congressman Moore said that such a designation would allow local communities in the Bear River area to protect important elements of their heritage and promote the area's tourism industry as well. And you can see this working in a couple of different ways. One that I just mentioned, being able to promote the area as a tourist attraction, but also protect important historical and heritage-oriented sites. But it would also allow this designation, if it was designated as an official heritage area, it would allow the local communities to have one more arrow in their quiver when it comes to something we talked a little bit about last week on the show, which is all of these communities south of us along the Wasatch Front, all the way down into the Salt Lake County area, salivating over how much water there is in the Bear River area. Now, this wouldn't directly stop any water developments that are going to be up to the state legislature, but if there was a declaration of a heritage area, it would mean there would be additional considerations before water could be, say, piped from the Bear River area to Salt Lake City, something that has literally been proposed many times by Salt Lake City state lawmakers. In fact, one time, the current Senate President, Stuart Adams, tried to create a slush fund for this type of thing. When he was a senator, not Senate President, he put money aside that was meant to go to community redevelopment, and they called it the Water Development Fund. Pretty vague, right? Well, the whole idea behind it was there were a lot of developers saying if the state was willing to spend some money, they'd have dams and pipes and everything in the Bear River area before the end of the weekend. I'm exaggerating, but probably just barely. So that caused a lot of concern. Cache Valley lawmakers, Box Elder County lawmakers really stepped up to the plate and said, hey, slow your roll, Salt Lake County lawmakers. And things kind of stalled out there. But that doesn't mean that the need isn't there, because even though it's fun to say things like, hey, that's our water, you have a lot of people living along the Wasatch Front and in the Salt Lake County area that make up a large portion of the state's population, which also makes up a large portion of the state's productivity and therefore economy. And they need water to drink, to cook with, to shower, things like that. I do think maybe we could do with fewer car washes and things like that. But really, the major water demand is coming from population growth, and that will continue to be the case even more so over the next several years. So, yeah, it's easy to say something like, hey, that's our water, and be selfish like that, but we're going to have to share. What this type of designation and some of the work that's being done by our own lawmakers in raising awareness of the area and the need to be careful with the area is it would allow for a more deliberative and thoughtful process for any development and water piping that does happen. So anything that slows us down, I think, is a good idea. But Representative Moore said that the required study, which would begin if Congress passes this Bear River Heritage Study Act, the required study will explore the economic opportunities of the heritage area, if it were designated, or where it's being proposed as a designation. And it would also offer some coverage to southeastern Idaho. Representative Simpson, a Republican from southeastern Idaho, said that he was very pleased to join Representative Moore in this pursuit, and that they're seeking to empower small communities in the Bear River region. So a national heritage area, by the way, is just a federally designated site with a clear boundary. It has to be drawn out in the designation. And the goal is to encourage historic preservation, heritage, respect, and love. And then also, in the case of Bear River especially, protect the land, the water, the region itself as historically significant. There are currently only 55 such sites in the United States. A national heritage area is not owned or managed by the federal government. They're actually administered fully by the states, or can be designated the responsibility permanently or temporarily of a nonprofit organization. So there are a lot of different ways it can happen, but it's not the federal government. And they're designated as basically another local entity. And NHAs are created by Congress only, individual acts of Congress. It has to be a specific bill. And there's some pretty strict requirements to meet the necessary threshold for designation criteria, including national unique natural, cultural, historic, or scenic character. And also NHAs must be able to tell a, quote, unique story of the history of the United States. Now, the Bear River area, of course, meets all of those. So the bill, as proposed by Moore and Simpson, that would be, again, the Bear River Heritage Area Study Act. And if designated, the Bear River Heritage Area would include 7 counties in northern Utah and southeastern Idaho. It's been supported by a lot of different stakeholders, including the Bear River Association of Governments, Cache Daughters of Utah Pioneers, Cache Valley Center for the Arts, Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce, Cache Valley Visitors Bureau. The city of St. Charles, Idaho jumped on board and gave this a thumbs up. The Folklore Society of Utah, Franklin County Relic Hall Museum and Historical Site, Friends United of Bear Lake, and the Idaho Commission of the Arts in southeastern Idaho, and, of course, the Southeastern Idaho High County Tourism Association, and finally, here in Cache Valley, the Stokes Nature Center jumping in to support this as well. So this is a pretty big deal. I've absolutely no idea what the likelihood of passage this is. Again, a national heritage area must be designated by Congress, but then is managed by the states or a selected nonprofit or something like that. And this doesn't happen very often. Again, there are only 55 of these in the United States, despite the fact that the law creating the process for designation of a heritage area has been around for I think about 70 years now. So there are only 55. I would say that means that this is not going to be something that happens tomorrow, but the bill has been introduced. If you'd like to read it, by the way, Congressman Moore has posted it along with a statement on why he created this bill and got Idaho representative to jump in with him, Idaho's Mike Simpson. It's a great read, and the bill itself is pretty simple. If you'd like to check it out, there's a link there on Congressman Moore's page, and I've linked to that on our own Facebook page. The big question, I guess, that I had, that most people had, is what would actually change if this area was designated as an official national heritage area. I've hinted at some things. Again, it would require deeper and longer consideration before any kind of development that would affect water levels or water routes in any way. That would be a good thing. But it would also be a way for local communities to start maximizing, I was going to say profiting, but maximizing the return from tourism, if you will. I think this is kind of important for the Bear River Heritage Area because it's what's known as a tourism pass-through site. It's one of those, you see them a lot when you drive through Montana, and then later you find out from locals that you should have stopped for this reason or that reason, but you had no idea. You drive through, and there's, at your car windows, maybe you stop at a scenic overlook or two, but mostly you're just driving through going, ooh and ah. That's what happens when people come through Utah and go through the Bear River area, or at least the area that would be part of this designated heritage site if approved by Congress. But most people don't know that there is a great reason to stop, plenty of reasons to stop. And they drive right by. And so that's another thing that I think would help local communities is that you'd, as a heritage area, you'd be on maps as an official stop, not a pass-through area on the way to Jackson Hole or up on into Idaho or something like that. This would be something that people would actually, as they came through, there would be reason for them to stop. And, of course, when people stop, when they're on tour, doing whatever, headed wherever, they spend money. So this would be good for local communities. I think it's a pretty big deal. I don't know why. One listener asked why Congress might not approve this. I don't know. I mean, they always seem to find a reason to do weird things, right? But there doesn't really seem to be a downside to this. There's no known opposition to this right now at all. Although, again, heritage designations are rare, so maybe that's one reason Congress might not take this up. But I'm guessing that this is going to be one of the first major pieces of legislation passed by new Congressman Blake Moore here in Utah's 1st Congressional District. So check it out again. Congressman Moore and Idaho's Congressman Mike Simpson looking to pass what is called the Bear River Heritage Area Study Act. Passage would mean, as the name implies, a study would begin, boundaries would be drawn, and in the end, if approved by Congress, again, the only entity that can make a designation like this, the Bear River area, inside the boundaries decided upon at least, would be considered the Bear River Heritage Area with some additional protections and considerations. So, pretty cool thing. Full story on this at CacheValleyDaily.com by our own Charlie Schill, and some beautiful pictures he's included there as well of some of the areas we're talking about here. I've linked to that on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
If you live in the south end of the valley, no doubt you've noticed the historical Hiram Granary taking an important role in our new Cache Valley Bank location. I'm Catherine Buse, branch manager. Keeping in touch with our history while looking to the future is part of Cache Valley Bank's mission. Hiram is Cache Valley Bank's 7th location in the valley. Join us for food and giveaways as we celebrate our Hiram branch grand opening June 26th. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Here's Chad, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
Summer temps are here, the grass is seeding out, and the lawns have gotten stressed. With that being said, we'd like to introduce our new 2-service soil enrichment program to help increase the size and number of roots in your grass, which allows the plant to better use both the water and nutrients that are there, improving the health of the plant and helping the stress of this time of year.
Fertilizer, weed, and pest control. Call the lawn doctor at 753-LAWN or go to LawnDoctorCacheValley.com.
Intermountain Healthcare is a name trusted throughout the state, and Cache Valley is no exception. Ear, nose, and throat doctors Kaiser and Wilson are accepting patients with ear, nose, and throat problems, sudden hearing loss, tonsil infections, sinusitis, and head, neck, and thyroid tumors. For more information about Dr. Kaiser or Wilson, search Budge Clinic ENT on the web or call 435-716-1420. Doctors Kaiser and Wilson provide local care with Intermountain expertise.
On the next Handle on the Law.
What legality rights do I have to prevent a roommate coming in who's younger than me and has been vaccinated, and I have no control over his workplace or how he approaches being safe during this COVID?
That's a very good question. You would like to know what legal avenues you can take?
Yeah, as far as...
How about this one? 0 and 0. Although I'll be more than happy to add another 0 if you'd like. It's Handle on the Law, Saturdays from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. Inside D.C. politics, how one Democratic senator toes the line in a deep red state. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to Mexico to discuss the migrant crisis at the southern border. Plus, Amazon is out with a new service that shares your internet connection with neighbors. What's that mean for privacy? And 4 ways to beat inflation. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Serving overseas was just the beginning. We might be home from war, but our mission continues in communities all across the country. It's why we're out there in times of peace and crisis, providing meals to the hungry and supplies to the sick. It's why we're giving strength to those who are too weak and bringing resources to those without them. Service doesn't stop when we're done serving. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at VFW.org.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
That is our show for today, but the fun far from over here. For political junkies, for those interested in the drought, how the ongoing fight against COVID-19 and increasing, if we can, vaccination rates. The governor is joining us next. I've got just a few seconds here to change costumes, change hats. We don't really do any of that. To transition from host of For the People to this month's host of a regular event moving throughout rural areas of the state over the next year. It's called Direct Link, live on air with Governor Spencer Cox. That's coming up next here on KVNU Logan. Your questions are welcome. Different 800 number for you to call, whereas this is a statewide event. To join us next hour with your questions or comments for Governor Cox, Dial 855-399-6800. Toll free 855-399-6800. Direct Link live on air with Governor Spencer Cox is next here on KVNU Logan.
And talk around the clock.
I listen to you all the time.
News Talk KVNU.